One pawn move. That's all it took for Carlsen to strangle the entire position. Hello, chess neurites. Pawns never move backward, and that's why every push matters. Carlsen just doesn't push the pawns, he builds the pressure with them, move by move, until his opponents have no space and no good plans. Let's break down how he does it and how we can bring that same precision into your own games. So, in this position, Carlsen has white pieces and his opponent is Grandmaster Alexander Rustemov. Let's try to understand the position a bit further and what Carlsen does next. So he has a pawn in the center. That's a good thing. This is an outpost square. But if he brings the knight here, it can get exchanged. But still, that weak square is there. Black's pieces seem a bit passive because this knight e7, as I mentioned, is covering the square. But because of that, this rook is a bit restricted. This rook is also a bit restricted. But at the same time, Black's position is solid. So how Carlsen tries to break that position slowly but steadily is something what we'll see. So he starts with a really instructive move, that is a4. So he has a pawn in the center. He has this outpost square. So what is he doing on the queen side? So he has recognized that he has some potential to put pressure on the king side, but it's not enough. Let's say if he goes for h5, hg6, rook h1 ideas, then there might be king g7, rook h8 type of defenses. So black is passive, but he's solid there. So Carlsen wants to put some pressure on the queen side as well. So the resources of black can be divided and then Carlsen can start pushing on one particular side. Let's say if Rustemov in this position had played a5, then this would become a backward pawn, a new target that Carlsen can do something about. So what Rustemov does, he plays f5. He's like, all right, I'm going to challenge Carlsen's center. Carlsen is not worried. He just plays queen f3, he improves the queen's position, and then he can plan for that a5 move for which he played a4. Then Rustemov in this position plays d6. Carlsen doesn't see anything wrong with his plan that he started with a4, that is going for a5. The important point is that even if Rustemov doesn't do anything, there will still be a takes b6 and then this a file will be there. Now, what if Rustemov plays something like b5? It looks like now Carlsen can't do much on this file. He can't, but what has happened is now the queen is not on this diagonal and Carlsen can take advantage of that. How? Let's see. C takes b5, queen takes b5, then there is e takes f5. The point being that if there is knight takes f5, then there can be knight d5 type of ideas at some point. There can be rook eb1 trying to get that rook on the 7th rank, reminding Rustemov that yes, by playing b5, he did not allow Carlsen to open this file, but now this file is open and it's a bit too much for black to handle. So for that reason, after a5, Rustemov goes for f takes e4. Carlsen replies with rook takes e4. Now f5. Carlsen has no issues in exchanging the queens because now he has the rook on the e file. He is putting pressure on the queen side as well. His knight is well placed and Rustemov's pieces are still quite restricted. So it's really important to understand that because Carlsen played a4, Rustemov felt that he should try to do something in the center. Otherwise, Carlsen will push on the queen side. And what happened because of that is Carlsen got more activity. So that one pawn move can make such a significant difference. Now, rook e6, the queens got exchanged. And then Rustemov played knight c8. Things are looking solid for black because these two pawns are defended. But it's not as easy because of Carlsen's piece activity. He played the move a takes b6. His plan is pretty simple. He wants to open that a file. Then he improves the rook's position, rook a8. And as I had mentioned earlier, this d5 is an outpost square for the knight that he can make use of later on. Rustemov plays king f7. Carlsen exchanges the rooks. Rook b8. So this knight cannot move. If the knight moves, the b6 pawn will fall. h6. Just knight d5. So And Carlsen is not in a rush to capture this pawn. He can also try to play rook b7 to keep the pressure on the king side. Then Rustamov played g5, rook b7 check. He is under tremendous pressure in this position, and then he blundered with king g6 because there is h5 check, and he resigned because of the fact that king takes h5, there is knight f6 check, and the rook goes. But things were already bad for him because if he had played something like king g8, there is knight f6 check. So, and if he had played rook f8, then there is idea of rook h7. This is there, and if rook e6, then there is rook h8 check. Things are not that great for him already. If he had played knight e7, then there can be some ideas where Carlsen can keep up the pressure on the king side, and then he can try to capture this pawn as well, and he has active pieces. It would be just too bad for black. So, a really instructive game by Carlsen on how he increased the pressure on the queen side by playing a4 and then combined the activity of the king side and the center to outplay Rustamov in a convincing manner. So now let's go for the next game. In this game, Carlsen has black pieces and he's playing against Grandmaster Benjamin. So in this position, his b6 pawn is under some pressure. So he plays the move c5. Simple move. He is just pushing the pawn and then defending that b6 pawn. Then in this position, Bok played b4. Now it just seems like he's putting pressure on Carlsen's queen side. But because of c5, something has changed and Carlsen has recognized it. This square that was an outpost square. So even before c5 was played, it was an outpost square. But Carlsen could not put a piece there because even if it did, let's say, so there would be knight d4, e d4, bishop d4. So c5 not only helped him in defending the pawn, but also helped him in strengthening that d4 square for him. And when Bok played b4, Carlsen actually played the move knight e6, a multi-purpose move, because not only he is defending this pawn, but he is readying to bring his knight to d4. So he made a really nice use of that c5 move. Now let's see what happened. B takes c5 was played. B takes c5. Now he's ready to get his knight to the central important outpost square, that is d4. Knight c3 was played. He put that knight on d4. He's not worried about bishop into d4 or something because he can have ideas of c into d4 and this would be a protected pass pawn. Now he has to be a bit cautious about this knight d5, knight d7, and knight c7 immediate ideas. So if that's a cause of worry, then he can just play e takes d4 and these will be connected pass pawns. So depending on when Bok captures that knight, Carlsen will decide whether to capture it with the c pawn or the e pawn. So for the time being, Bok played queen d2. Now the knight has reached on the outpost square. So Carlsen tries to improve the other pieces, that is knight b6. So he can go knight c4 at some point. He's also controlling square. Then in this, knight d5 was actually played. Knight takes d5, e takes d5. By the way, this was an online blitz game, so it's understandable that even the best can miss some tactical ideas. Here, Carlsen missed one. If you want, you can pause the video and try to find what Carlsen missed. So Carlsen actually missed to play bishop into h3. So of course, bishop into h3, then there is knight f3 check. If knight takes d4, then there is e takes d4, and then there will be this problem. And a bishop g5, then there is queen d7. Bok is down a pawn, and his king side has gotten weaker. Now, after the move, bishop takes h3. If Bok plays something like this, then there is bishop takes g2. So, but as I mentioned earlier, it's an online game, so things can happen. I hope, by the way, you paused the video and found that bishop takes h3. So in this position, Carlsen played a natural move, bishop b7, developing the bishop and keeping up the pressure on this pawn. That pawn is weak and it will soon fall. So white played knight takes d4. He takes d4, bishop h6. Carlsen just exchanged the bishops. And then he played queen d7. The queen is on h6, but Carlsen is not worried because other pieces are not there for white to attack, and that lone queen won't be able to do much. Right now, he's focusing on that d5 pawn. So that pawn fell. The a2 pawn is under pressure. So Bok played a4. Carlsen is not worried. He played e4. Look at these two pawns. So his queen is centralized. He has these two strong pawns in the center, and of course, he has an extra pawn. Bok played a5. He was hoping that maybe Carlsen would capture this. And after rook a5, queen f5, maybe rook d4. But Carlsen is not interested in that. He played d3. Now that pass pawn is actually a protected pass pawn. Then a6 was played. He further improved the queen's position. Maybe he can try for e3 at some point and put pressure on Bok's king side. So queen f4 was played. Then rook e6. It's time to target this pawn. So Carlsen played king g7 to not allow any of these queen b8 ideas with a check. Although right now queen b8 is nothing much to worry about. He can always play something like queen d5 or rook e8 to handle the things. Bok played something like rook a3, rook f6, putting pressure through here. Then queen e3 was played. He exchanged the queens. Rook f3. This is under pressure. This is under pressure. Now Bok abandons the king side and he goes for that rook b8 idea. Carlsen played rook takes e3. Seems like Bok can now play rook b8 and get something. But of course, Carlsen had seen this. There is this move d2. Point is, if this, then queen. If rook a1, then there is rook e1 check. And this is just lost. So Bok played king f2, rook e2 check, rook c2. Now he got rook b8. But Carlsen had seen this as well. So he played rook c1 check, king g2, and he played d2. He's like, you capture my rook, but I'll promote. Bok did that. And then in this position, he played rook g8. He was like, all right, if you capture, then I might play this and then try to create something. But Carlsen recognized that he doesn't need to take the rook. He will simply mate the opponent, because if Bok had actually promoted, then there is queen f1 check, king h2, and queen h1 mate. So quite a few ways with which he can get checkmated. So he played king h3. After queen f1, he resigned because checkmate is actually inevitable. So really nice two games of Magnus Carlsen where he skillfully made use of his pawns in the first game to put pressure on the other side, and in this game to take control of that important d4 central outpost squares, and then later pushing the central pawns to keep up the pressure on Benjamin Bok and winning the game. Thanks everyone for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.